And our SuperTalk Mississippi news team, they are always covering your Mississippi stories, and no one does it better. We want you to stay up to date and sign up for that free weekly newsletter over at supertalk.fm. But it's Monday here on Good Things, so we're going to talk about the good topics. JT Mitchell, our news director, is with us to tell us what's happening on that lifestyle button, or just good in general. So, hey, JT.
Rebecca, what's up? How are you?
But I know you're going to start with some beef, or I guess some groundhog.
Kind of.
But no,
Bad news turned into good news.
I like that.
Punxsutawney Phil, bad news, Soul Shadow.
I saw that, and I posted in the Good Things Facebook group, and everybody's like, this is not good news, Rebecca. And I'm like, I'm just sharing the information.
It is kind of good news because he's a terrible meteorologist.
All right.
He's only correct 35% of the time. He's been right 3 times in 10 years.
So do you know, like, what they look for? I know it's shadow, but like...
Yeah, so the shadow, if he sees it, they say 6 more weeks of winter. Other side of it, they say early spring. I think they take, the national averages, find the median, and see if he's right. And he is terribly wrong.
So that means, and that's what we were saying, like this past weekend, JT, was absolutely
That's right now.
beautiful. Oh, no, today is just amazing.
70 degrees.
Yeah, so getting out and getting your vitamin D. So what does that groundhog know? So we're going to just soak in these moments and be like, yeah, he was just a little off his rocker this week.
Yeah, and I started doing a deep dive into it because yesterday when that happened and it was beautiful outside, I was like, this guy can't be right. I did a deep dive. There are 19 groundhogs in America that pick every year, and they've been doing it for over 2 decades. Punxsutawney Phil ranks number 17 in terms of accuracy. So he's one of the worst, but the most famous.
Is he the same groundhog, or is it kind of like with Mississippi State and their bulldog bully? There's like a whole lineage.
Oh, that's a whole different deal. So you have these 19 groundhogs in their respective places. So, for example, the most accurate, 85% of the time, is the Staten Island Chuck, who lives up in New York. Punxsutawney Phil, you talk about lineage. They're actually super secretive about him. They say he's 138 years old.
Okay, so he's like his great-great.
Impossible to be that old, as groundhogs live up to 14 years max
he's
in
not
captivity.
Moses.
No, he's not. and it's crazy. When you go to the website of the people behind Punxsutawney Phil, they say they feed him a magic elixir every summer. If he takes 1 sip, he gets an extra 7 years added to his life.
So if that was true, JT, this is how I know that's a lie, because they would be selling that on the black market.
No doubt. You and I'd be doing radio forever.
Didn't they? Oh, my God. But didn't they do a whole, like, Indiana Jones off of an elixir that would keep you alive?
So they're definitely lying.
Of course. It's part of the allure.
Because he currently has 2 baby groundhogs growing up in his shadow.
So that's how they do it.
They're just going to scoot one in when the current Punxsutawney
Could you imagine, though, if they did that with Bully and they just led fans to believe that Bully was just...
And they probably could.
150 years old, yeah.
I mean, it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, what's cool, though, is I had a friend my best friend in high school. Her dad got one of... a bully line. I don't know. It was a pass bull, like when they retire.
Like
or what.
Got to have it as a pet?
Yeah,
that is neat.
It was within the anywho, but yeah.
And I heard you guys talking about, because I know that you can go all different directions with animals that do stuff, that we just love. I mean, we gather around that. The Super Bowl deal, Will mentioned the octopus.
Yes, that's real?
That's real.
Yeah.
And then there's a hippo named Fiona who picks at the Cincinnati Zoo every year. And then you have a Mediterranean donkey at the Maryland Zoo.
I think the Hattiesburg Zoo needs to step up.
The sloth.
If you're listening to Good Things, JT and I are giving you free fun to do. You need to somehow, one of your animals needs to make a prediction for the Super Bowl.
Oh, well, Hattiesburg Zoo has a great sloth exhibit. You can't do it now. It's too late to do it for this year's Super Bowl. But if you would have started them, last week, maybe they'd pick one.
Maybe they would pick one.
And you could have a webcam on them at all times
to see when they finally, made their mark. And they have to listen to Good Things. So I hope they do that next year. That'd be a whole lot of fun to sort of.
It would be cool. Yeah. I mean, we have all these niche things that happen in Mississippi, like especially New Year's Eve. You got catfish that fall. You could do something around the Super Bowl. Why not?
I think so. I totally agree. Too bad, though, we are not talking about wins at the Grammys. But we're still, per capita, the most nominated state, correct? I think is the way it's
we technically went 0 for 2 last night. We had Cedric Burnside for Best Traditional Blues Album. And then our colleague and friend, Steve Azar, he was part of that track with Alice Cooper and Slash. They just missed winning Best Children's Album. So 0 for 2, but it's still an honor to be nominated.
Absolutely.
I mean, how many Grammys do you and I have combined nominations?
Well,
No,
maybe next year.
Maybe so. But yes, after crunching the numbers this morning, even though we did not get a win last night, the state, Mississippi, is still leading the nation in most Grammys per capita, which is huge. I mean, that's the reason we have the museum in Cleveland.
And who has the most Grammys in our state?
Oh, do you know that
Bobby
one?
Rush.
Ah.
Y'all put it in one of your articles. I read what y'all write. I don't know
And
if
that
you
could
wrote
have
it.
been it could have been. I have all this knowledge that just is useless, and then and then
Do you know he's 91 and still getting after it, and he will be in studio on Friday or Valentine's Day here in Good,
and he's
on
a
Good Things.
trip. Last time he came on with the late Paul Gallo, that was one of the most fun interviews. And Bobby Rush, he won last year. Yes, he won last year, and he was 90, right?
Correct.
That has to be one of the oldest.
I saw him in concert at Hal and Mal's with my dad after my mom and I completed the half marathon for the Blues Marathon. And that's back when they would have a big after party or whatnot. And gosh, now that was probably 10 plus years ago. So he was, a spring chicken at 80 or so, or late 70s, early 80s. And man, I mean, his joints work better than most 50-year-olds.
Whatever these rock stars take, I need to get me some. I mean, look at Mick Jagger, still getting after it. Bobby Rush, 91, still getting after it. But that's been great. Friday?
Valentine's Day.
Okay.
Yep.
Mark your calendar, listeners.
Mark your calendars, absolutely. That'll be a good time. So what else we got good going on in Mississippi, JT?
What else good? I mean, we got a whole list. SuperTalk.fm, go to the lifestyle button, one of which is the Dixie National Rodeo. The largest rodeo east of the Mississippi is back. I'm not a huge rodeo person.
No.
I mean, when I was a kid, thought it was fine. But what
Never would have guessed.
Never would have guessed.
Hey, my sister actually, she grew up as a barrel racer.
No, I wouldn't have guessed that either. What happened to you? Did you just not get on a horse?
I'm just not very good at those kind of things.
You know what he does like, though? I'm sorry, no, I'm changing the subject, Will. He had 2 snakes.
Growing up, you did? Or now?
He had
Now we got problems.
I got a wife now. She don't want the snakes in there.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just had to throw that in. If they did snake rounding up, maybe he would have been,
Well, you should have come to Snake Day at the Science Museum this
should
year.
not have, and I'm
You
glad
could
I
have
didn't.
found me with a 6-foot-long Eastern indigo wrapped around my waist. I would have let you hold it.
He would have. I panicked and passed out. I don't know if he made it out of the parking lot. But the rodeo, we detract you. But
I
yeah,
don't
it's
think there
headed
will
back.
be snakes there, but it will be a good time for those who like that. And what I do like about it is it's huge for the city and the state. Ag Commissioner Andy Gibson, he said last week that I don't know where he's getting his numbers, but he has projections that it's going to be the largest attendance ever.
I know that at least on Valentine's night, they've got, her name just, Ballerini, I think.
Was it Ella Langley?
Or Ella Langley, excuse me, yes, because I tried to get tickets to that. So when you have great talent coming in, people will buy the tickets, even if it's not for the rodeo, they'll go to the concert or sort of vice versa.
Yeah, so speaking of Ella, her and Zach Top are already both sold out. And I think what you're saying is correct. They sold tickets to non-rodeo goers for just the concert.
I will give my hats off to Andy Gibson and whoever in his team or over there that decided to move the concert to the end of the rodeo. I was long-standing, been to the rodeo ever since I was itsy bitsy. That was a family tradition. We always went on Wednesday night when it was the last night. So I've been going for 40 years, and it was a nice change for families who want to go and see the rodeo and then skip out because it used to be intermission, and you didn't know any different, so you just figured it out. But it is a nice, or if you really like the act, you get to. So I like it's still one great event if you want the whole thing, but then you have options depending on where you're. Yeah. I thought that was a really smart move for them to make.
We went, and I agree 1,000%. We went with our nephews, and it was past our bedtime by the time the concert rolled around.
Right.
So while they stayed, we hit the road.
Right.
So I agree with that. I mean, intermission, and that's when all the kids say run down and try to get the spots. It's hectic. Either way, should make a lot of money. We're expecting over 200,000 people in Jackson for the rodeo. We have a guide to it all Know before you go at supertalk.fm.
Yep. If you're looking for those positive headlines too, hit that lifestyle button. It's my favorite. Always enjoy catching up with you, JT. You guys stick with us. We got a few more good for you coming up next.